Hey everybody, this is Tim with Owl Eyes Wilderness Survival. This is part 3 of our acorn processing series, in which we learn how to take dry acorns and make them into flour. So stay tuned and let's show you what to do. So to start out, I want to show you the tools that I use. And these are all things I've just kind of gathered over the years that work for me. There are a few things that you can buy. One of them is called the Dave Built Nutcracker. I think it's developed for pecans, but it's perfectly sized to break acorns as well. And what that does is you put it in the hopper up top and you crank the handle. And what that does is it cracks all your acorns for you. That is a faster process just to crack them. Then you have to go through and sift them out. For me, foraging is kind of all about saving money and just being out in nature, enjoying the woods and whatnot. So I kind of like to make things or just things I've gathered over the years that will help me process acorns. So I just have a small bag of dried acorns here, but that's enough flour to make a good little meal there. A couple pancakes, you know. And I'll start by saying this is you don't need to go and gather 70 pounds of acorns. If this is all you can get, you know, a quarter of a pound or whatever, go ahead and get them. You know, try it out. At least you're foraging. At least you're getting out in the woods, getting some movement. All right. So again, there's my dried acorns. So these are actually from last year. Let me introduce you to my first tool here. This is called a nutting stone, I believe. And my friend Laura from the Moose Ridge Wilderness School actually showed me hers, and I went and made mine. I just took a diamond drill bit there and just kind of made a little concavity. And then this is just a regular rock. But what you do is you put the acorn on top, and that just holds it. Give it a little tap. Don't smash down on it, just to crack it. All right. And the way that we tell when an acorn is dry is we open it up, and it should be pretty hard to get our thumbnail through it, really at all. I mean, I'm pushing pretty hard, and that's all I can really make. So that's a good dry acorn. Now, you have the shells, all right? And you can do whatever with those that you want. You could boil them up and make kind of like a tannin tea, and I've actually tanned hides with this. But at this point, I kind of just toss them out in the woods. You're definitely not littering by doing that, so that's that. So the next thing is you have this brown paper, all right, on the acorn shell. The acorn nut meat, and that's called the testa. So the testa is this brown kind of papery stuff on the outside of the nut meat, all right? Now, it's pretty impossible to get all of that off. If you can just give it a quick little rub down, see if you can get it off, great. But otherwise, that's good nut meat there. Sometimes it's a little bit lighter, but you definitely don't want it to be black or moldy. And what I'm going to do when I'm out in the woods, this is a slow process, but I'll use a mortar and pestle and put my acorn meat in there, put that off to the side, and I'll just keep cracking my acorns. Might need to give that one a harder tap. Cracking those open, getting the shell off. And this is where you should, do all your binge watching on your shows or, just hang out with some friends and talk, listen to some music, whatever, because this can be pretty time consuming. If you have a bowl of these out on the kitchen counter when you have guests over, you can maybe ask for some help, but get the kids involved, whatever. So this is a time-consuming process, but that's what foraging is all about. It's getting out in the woods, enjoying it, and getting good food in the process. Now, unfortunately, acorns cannot be eaten unprocessed. They have to go through a process called leaching, which removes the tannic acid or the tannins out of the acorn. I encourage you to go ahead and bite into some acorn nut meat just as is, just so you get the experience of that astringency. It feels like your whole mouth's being like vacuumed into the acorn. This is the point where we decide if we're going to hot leach or if we're going to cold leach. Both methods are effective, all right? One uses hot water, one uses cold water. But this is where you're either going to need to make flour or bits, all right? Now, if I was going to hot leach, this is good enough. So the initial setup process with the acorns is a lot quicker. The leaching process is also a lot quicker, but it requires multiple changes of boiling water, all right? And we'll get into that later. Cold leaching, we should be making flour out of it. I prefer cold leaching just because I think it makes a higher quality flour and I like the consistency of it. So that's what I focus on. If you have a blender, great, but I'm doing this video out in the woods, so this is what I got. So takes a lot longer. But if you can, find a good blender, maybe one that you are willing to kind of destroy or sacrifice as your Acorn blender, great. But grind that up into a very fine flour. It should look kind of like almond meal, all right? And don't worry about that testa, all right? If that ends up in the flour, it's no big deal. It makes a higher quality flour the less there is. But I noticed that with hot leaching, it kind of just floats off the acorn nut meat, and cold leaching, it just floats to the top when we're leaching it out. So I'm going to make a flour out of this. So do some initial breaking up. Try to get the bits to not fly out of there. Then you can go ahead and give it a good mix. This is why a blender would be more efficient. It's because you push a button, everything stays in there, and it does the job. But you'll see the test is coming off. All right, so that's why I don't spend too much time trying to take it off the nut meat, because when I do this, it comes off on its own. And again, if that ends up in there, whatever, right? All right, there is some good acorn flour. That didn't take me too long. It's really not that much, but if you're just hanging out, talking, whatever, singing songs, whatever you want to do, this is a good activity to do. So that looks pretty much like almond meal, if you ask me. It has about the same consistency of it. So that's that. Okay, so I'm going to cold leach this. I'm going to make a lot more, and then I'm going to cold leach it all together. And there's many ways that you can cold leach. But thanks so much for watching, and get out there, go gather some acorns, and join us in the next video on acorn processing.